Wouldn't it be funny if I just decided to pick the one that got the least amount of votes? Doesn't matter, I'll have to cover Treasure Island one day anyway. So, Teletubbies. You probably know them. Yeah, originally a children's entertainment program back in the mid to late 90s. A show about aliens from Area 51 that was stationed in Wyoming, made to entertain children, eat Pepto-Bismol, and undercooked toast. And to no one's surprise, that they would end up being used for modern horror games. Other than today's topic, the other big Teletubbies horror game, probably being Slendytubbies. You know, that Slenderman Teletubbies fan game, you know, where Poe is a necromorph and Nunu, the vacuum cleaner, was the big bad of the entire game. So, just call up Isaac and we'll leave it there, yeah? Anyway, back to today's topic, Tubbyland. Actually, kinda has a similar history to Treasure Island and Chuck E. Cheese. Now, the original Tubbyland was released in April of 2015, and unlike Treasure Island, has had 2 other installments, and a remaster that released just recently, with it getting 3 more acts to go alongside it. So I'm relatively new to Tubbyland, so for this video I'm going to be playing the 3 original games, as well as the new Tubbyland Archives game. And yep, that's all the games that are available currently, so let's waste no more time and talk about the first 5 nights in Tubbyland. Alright, so starting off with game number 1. Mate, it's just like FNAF 1, who would have seen that one coming? The characters, that being around 6 of them, 2 of them are more secret characters, so really 4, which obviously are the Teletubbies themselves. Night 1 gets us introduced to our office, and we have 2 doors. One that has a blast door and an open door in front of us. We have our cameras. La La Land will be active upon night 1, and she's rather basic compared to the others. She'll simply approach your door, close it when she's in camera alpha, so I'm assuming the developer forgot what number comes after 5. Pooh will also be active upon night 1, and she will move from room to room, and you'll have to keep her music box wound. Sounds familiar. That's all you'll really have to deal with on night 1. Actually, the phone guy doesn't tell you at all on how to deal with them. It's sort of up to you to figure that out. Starting on night 2 though, Phone Guy will spill the beans on how to deal with these characters. So next character to be introduced is Tinkle Winkle, who works similarly to Freddy from FNAF 1, where he'll approach the right door, which basically is the only indefensible part of your office. So if you know how Freddy works in FNAF 1, should be like running a bike, but in case you don't know, you need to stare at Tinkle Winkle to keep him in place indefinitely. Obviously you have Pooh and La La Land to keep watch on, making it a little bit more difficult. The final character is introduced on night 3, being Dipshit. Now, he is a bit more of an original gimmick, so Dipshit will obviously move about, but to prevent him killing you, you need to use this fumes machine. Why an animatronic is affected by gas? I have no clue. But whatever, so you need to wait until he's right about to advance to your office. It doesn't use up power, so you need to manage it wisely. So, those 2 last characters, huh? They're more secret characters, if anything, so they technically don't really count in my opinion, but, you know, they still exist, I guess. Whatever. The first of them is Nunu, who acts like Golden Freddy in this game. He'll appear in the office randomly, and specifically, you have 6.66 seconds to react. So I'm convinced John Romero is somehow involved with this game. The last and final character is this guy, who is a prototype version of the other characters, called PTLD-93. He's unlocked on a secret night, in which you can get via a game over screen, which is pretty interesting. I've never really seen a fan game use that. It's kind of like how Candy's Remastered hid its secret night code via the extras menu. Pretty cool. So, the undefined night or night PTLD night completely switches up the game in the original. You see, instead of having to waste power, you're now having to gain it, with you needing to gain 100 power before the night is completely over. And you also have to defend yourself from PTLD. There really isn't a whole lot else to this. other than you just need to get 100 power before 6 AM, defend yourself from PTLD, and you're basically good to go. The way to defend yourself from this guy is to turn on the lights when he's inside of the office. So really, it's just sort of a waiting game, and that's pretty much all there is to this night. Just charge the power, flash the lights when you need to, and you're good to go. Now after beating night 6, you get a cutscene to show how all of this ended up happening in the first place. So the PTLD-39 character primed the fabled Pepto-Bismol dispenser and made it explode. That's all I could gather for the first Tubbyland game anyway, so let's move on. Alright, so game number 1. Yeah, it's good, I guess. This was released around the big FNAF fan game boom back in 2015, so I'm not exactly surprised this one plays a lot similarly to the classic FNAF games. That's usually how these stories start anyway, so let's waste no more time and get onto this game's sequel, Five Nights at Tubbyland 2. Alright, so starting right off the bat, these new character designs look really stupid. I think the older versions looked a lot more like Teletubbies than these guys anyway. So, like before, you have your cameras, office, phone guide tutorial stuff, you know how all this works. So what's different about this game? Well, now it's kinda like FNAF 2, where you have a mask-esque mechanic with the smoke machine. You use it to defend from the 2.0 animatronics, all except Tinklewinkle and Nunu. So Tinklewinkle kinda works like how he did in the first game, only that he's kinda like a balloon boy gimmick now, where he'll shut the power off, giving Nunu a bit of an advantage. So it's important to keep a good eye on him. Speaking of Nunu, everybody's favourite vacuum cleaner, is actually a character in this game, it isn't a Golden Freddy hallucination. You now need to use these transmissions to get rid of him and prevent him from killing you. The only downside is that the smoke machine will not work, so you have to pick and choose on a short notice. Lastly, there's the original Pooh, who will come into the office and you just do nothing. She kinda works like Grunkfist from Flumpsies 2. You also have an awareness meter in the bottom left to gauge how much is left. A custom night will get you your ending, where we watch someone, I'm assuming it's either Pooh or Prototype, implant a grenade into the Pepto-Bismol dispenser. There's also a Nightmare Night, you don't really get anything for it, and that's all there is for the sequel. So like, the actual second game itself, honestly, I don't think I really like this one compared to the first one. You see, the thing that made the first one a lot more fun, I'd say, is that all of the characters did something individual. It wasn't just like, you know, 3 characters do the same thing, and unfortunately that's kind of what they do here. 3 characters basically do the same thing. One of them you don't really have to pay attention to, like, at all, and the other 2, you don't really need to do a whole lot with them. With Tinklewinkle, you just need to look at him, and with Nunu, you just have to press a button, and that's pretty much about it. I think when compared to the first one, this one definitely feels a lot more, I guess, quote-unquote, dumbed down. The cameras are pretty much useless, so yeah, I didn't really like this one as much as the first one. I didn't really like this sequel compared to the other one. This one just really, it just feels a lot more dumbed down, in my opinion. The character designs, I think I already mentioned, are pretty gross and don't really look good at all, honestly. They just look really stupid. The gameplay, I feel, is a lot more simpler compared to the first one. You don't really need to check around the cameras as much as you did in the first one. Feeling that the game, and this makes the game just feel a lot less, I guess, interesting in my opinion, and is so far my least favourite in this sort of old series. So we only have one more game to look at in this one, so let's take a look at Tubbyland 3. Yeah, apparently this one's got the tagline of the endgame. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Tinklewinkle's gonna get the Infinity Gauntlet. So, this game's animatronics are the prototype versions of the original animatronics, which look less ugly than the 2.0 versions, so that's nice. So, in this game, you have 3 doors and a ceiling vent. You can shut the 3 doors and turn on a heater. The power for the building is pretty bad, so you can turn it off with the benefit of gaining extra power, though you can't use your cameras. Now, the characters will approach the doors and you'll need to shut them. And when they try to enter through the vents, you need to flip on the heater, but you need to turn it off in order to prevent Tinkle Winkle from killing you. Nunu will act like a phantom animatronic and disable your abilities for a little while. La La Land is basically Foxy, and that you have to look at her and prevent her from bolting it towards your office. If she does, then just shut the door in her face. The next character, being called the Original, won't jump scare you, but instead will try to drain power from you if you shut the door on him. He'll drain about 45% your power, so it's better to let him inside. Other than that, all of the other characters either try to kill you via the doors or ceiling vent. PTLD returns for this game and can appear on any night, but more than likely you'll see it on some post-game nights. It works like FNAF 1 Golden Freddy, where it'll appear in the office at random and flipping the monitor up will get rid of them. It also appears in a minigame where you play as PTLD, and it shows how it convinced Pooh to blow up the Pepto-Bismol dispenser. You know, this is the Teletubbies we're talking about, so wouldn't they just forgive her? Man, like, these guys hold big grudges. So the last character in this game is the announcer telephone thing from the show itself. Now, letting this thing into the office, like Nunu, will disable some abilities, so you need to shut the door in its face to get rid of it. Obviously, you have a custom night, secret night, called Night X, which is where you'll see PTLD the majority of the time. The game ends with our player character getting killed. This cutscene honestly looks like an old PlayStation FMV cutscene, reminds me of Medieval. There's also a good ending for this game that you can get, as well as the bad ending, which I just mentioned. I think as a game though, it just kind of just goes straight back to FNAF 1 in terms of its gameplay. Not bad, but at this point, I'd at least expect something a little different for this series going forward. Well, I guess that's a reason why I got a remaster. Okay, so I like the third game a lot more than the second. It plays a lot more like FNAF 1. They have that whole heat gimmick from UCN. Actually, I'm pretty sure this game predates that by a little while. Yeah, I'll give you the cold water. I don't really give two fucks about the story, since it revolves around someone blowing up the Pepto-Bismol dispenser. Anyway, that's it for the actual series itself. Now let's quickly talk about the actual gameplay. I think it's more on par with like the first game, and while it's not terrible, it's sort of like been there, done that kind of deal. So I don't like this one as much as the first one, but I definitely prefer it over the second one, so I guess that's something. So we only have one more game to look at, which is the final video, or final game for this video, being the Tubbyland Archives Act 1. So right off the bat, this one's a remaster of the first Tubbyland game, so a lot of things will be much different than the original, so I'll mainly point out the big major differences, so starting with the designs of the characters themselves. They look a lot more like the Teletubbies, which is nice, I guess. So you now have a camera flashlight, access to room power, and have use of the intercom system. Rooms can turn off occasionally, so you need to power the room back on. Pooh will be active on night 1, and her gimmick is kind of similar to the first game, but actually still revolves around audio, but is more like Springtrap from FNAF 3. She'll move around, and to keep her at bay, you need to use the intercom system, which lures her into a different room. Night 2 will introduce in La La Land and Nunu. La La Land will just walk into your office and you need to hide from her and let her pass on by. Nunu will simply prevent the player from hiding for too long, and that's really all he's here for now. Tinkle Winkle will start moving around, and to deal with him you need to flash him on the cameras, which will make him leave. Dipshit will actually only attack the player if you look at the cameras. He has like 4 stages, and when he's in his 4th stage, he'll try to attack, so you need to hide in order to stop him. Night 5 has our phone guy getting killed by Nunu, which, like, easily the most pathetic death. Imagine dying to a vacuum cleaner of all things. Beat this night and it's all over. So next, let's talk post-night cutscenes. So they're here for every night now, and you need to find Nunu. These are simply depicting the events prior to the death of the phone guy character. Night 5 will show you in 16-bit format on how he exactly died to Nunu. Night 6, where the player character decides to come back to get some
revenge
for his fallen employee. Beating this night, we get to play as Barney Calhoun? Okay, and we need to find the company files that our fallen comrade was on about on the last phone call, while also avoiding the animatronics. You need to find the 10 files, then escape, and it ends night 6 normally. Now, there is a custom night, and beating it will reveal that our player character has actually gone to therapy for what he had just experienced. Now, there is a secret night being Night X, and thus this brings us PTLD, returning from the original game. Now, this one's a lot different compared to the other nights, as the character for this night isn't the one we've been sticking with. I think it's actually the CEO of this game. And now the game completely switches up on us. It's a little weird to get to grips with, but you'll understand pretty quickly. You have multiple monitors, a map of the building, breaker switches, a Nunu status monitor, and some remote control. You use Nunu to bait PTLD away from the player. You notice this EMP shutdown. You need to survive long enough to activate it, and to do it you need to keep rooms on to charge, though they can randomly turn off, so you need to turn it back on. You can view Nunu's status on the right and move him around. You want to make sure that he isn't destroyed, so basically the right hand of the screen is for Nunu and the left is for PTLD. Activating the EMP will finish the night. PTLD will run into the room and get zapped like the Gargantua from Half-Life 1, allowing us to escape. We now are left with the revamped story for this game, and honestly, I quite like it. It focuses a lot more on the human characters instead of the animatronics. There is a secret image which shows us the employee who got Nunu'd. Yeah, he totally looks like he's embarrassed about dying to a fucking vacuum cleaner. I mean, like, come on guys, couldn't you just like shove the grenade down Nunu's tube? That would have instantly destroyed him. Also, is he Jacksepticeye? He has green eyes. Yeah, Nunu fucking killed Jacksepticeye. What a world. And, well, it is a lot better, but I still don't really care about it, though. And now we're done with Tubbyland Archives. Alright, there we have it. So let's start with the classic games first. Honestly, I mean, I like them. They're pretty fun. I definitely do think that it does get a little boring at times, especially with the second game. It does pick up by the third game, but still has a lot of the same issues that the second one has, with the cameras being basically almost useless. Now, this is where I'd actually tell you to play the fan-made Throwback Trilogy, a fan-made remaster of the 3 games. So, you may be asking, why didn't I play that for this video? I wanted to get the original experience, since I'm relatively new to this. I'd go play a better version of a game if it was updated by the original creator. It's kind of like playing, like, oh, why would you play Half-Life 1 instead of Black Mesa? Black Mesa's clearly better, and yeah, but it doesn't have, like, Half-Life 1 scientist sound effects now, does it? There is also a remaster of the first game, similar to Archives, but it isn't... Is it a fan game? Because it's made by literally one of the devs, so I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that one's kind of outdated. Just play Archives instead. Speaking of the fucking devil, I really liked Archives. This one feels a lot more original than the first one really was. Night X is a nice little change of pace. The story is much better, even though I don't really give two shits about FNAF stories. I will say, if you are interested in the series, go play Archives right now. It is a really solid game, and it's super poopy that this one isn't actually as well received, I'd say. Like genuinely. Look, I understand, this is like the same thing as Wario's. From the surface, it looks stupid because it's Teletubbies, okay? But like, that never stopped people from liking this one, despite the fact that Poe is, once again, a necromorph. So, I don't know, maybe give this one a try. This one's definitely a fun time, so definitely worth it. And speaking of, Act 2, as of recording this video, is currently being developed, as well as the futures of Act 3 and Act 4. So, I'm pretty excited to see how these turn out. I'll probably revisit Act 2, or Tubbyland, in the near future, and I already know someone out there is going to ask me to cover Slendy Tubbies, so we'll just see how long that takes. Thus, our adventures for today will be concluding, so let's get the shameless shilling done and over with like I usually do. So if you are new here, please consider hitting the big red subscribe button. We are really close to hitting 10k subscribers, so click that subscribe button for that special 10k subscriber special that honestly is just a normal video where I cover a game that isn't Five Nights at Freddy's for like the first time in my entire life. So do that. I have a Twitter account as well. If you're interested, of course, you can follow me. I don't post a lot because, you know, it's Twitter, so you can do that if you want to. I'll post my art. I usually post my art there quite a bit, and I sometimes post it on the YouTube community tab as well, so you can check that out. If you're also interested, I have a Discord server. I promise you it is not a cesspit like most public Discord servers for YouTubers usually are, especially for a 18-year-old. If you're interested in any of those, both of those links are provided within the description of this video. Thanks everyone so much for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye!